News with me, Evelyn, Araba, Aidoo. Coming up, energy analyst urges President Akufo-Addo to abrogate GRA SML contract as he pushes for fresh starts to processes in the award of a downstream revenue assurance contract.
Abrogate the contract so that proper due process can be followed for SML if they merit it to be given the contract, or we get several other companies that could perform such an activity.
Also coming up, Trainee Nurses Association dismisses report that government has settled 4 months out of the 23-month allowance owed them. And later in the bulletin, we will bring you a report on an emerging trend of improper dressing among high school students in the capital, exploring the causes, consequences, and the potential solution.
So if you were to see a student like that, you would normally look at them and assume that they're not maybe as serious as other students.
If they tell you that we have closed and we're going home and that we can do whatever we want to do, and no adult on the street is correcting them, then it tells you where society is going.
Details coming up shortly.
Star News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Star 1035 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Star 103.5 FM. Star News. Informed, in depth, in touch.
Now, energy analyst and senior lecturer at the Oil and Gas Department of the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Shafiq Suleiman, is urging President Akufo-Addo to abrogate the GRA SML contract as he pushes for a fresh start to processes in the award of a downstream revenue assurance contract. President Akufo-Addo finally released the full report of a KPMG audit of the deal following public pressure on him to do so after he earlier refused an RTI request from the Media Foundation for West Africa. While the report revealed that GRA did not receive appropriate approvals from the Public Procurement Authority as well as Parliament before engaging SML in 2018, and cite GRA for not doing proper needs assessments before contracting SML, the audit has recommended a renegotiation. But speaking to Star News, Dr. Suleiman says government must open up the contract for all who are competent to compete.
As their capacity as a company to be able to perform that relative to GRAs, where my problem is. And you can see they've not actually followed due process in acquiring the contract. That's one. Since KPMG has recommended that we can renegotiate, renegotiation here means that there's a breach or there's inconsistency in terms of public policy that allows SML to have gotten the contract. So first of all, I would have recommended, if I was the president or I was in the shoes of the president, to abrogate the contract so that proper due process can be followed for SML if they merit it to be given the contract, or we get several other companies that could perform such an activity better, or even allow SML to partner with other more competent entities to come back and fulfill the terms of the contract.
Meanwhile, one of the 3 journalists who worked on the exposé, Evans Mensah Adiamo, says although the publication is welcoming, persons implicated in the contract breaches must be brought to book to ensure the sanctity of the public sector.
We are just journalists, and the best we can do is to bring out the issues that have to be discussed and decisions that have to be taken. Now, it's less with the stakeholders that have to call for a total cancellation of the contract and to demand that those who took action and gave SMO those 6 contracts without PPA approval and then later on going for a ratification from PPA are sanctioned. Because if we have rules governing our public financial management and governing our procurement, and people can choose to disregard it, and then the best we could do is to ratify the contract, it means that it will enhance impunity within the public sector. And so our former finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, and the former commissioner, for instance, they have to be held responsible.
Well, away from that, political lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere, says government has been shot in the foot over the arrest of leading member of the Movement for Change, Hobson Adoye. His comment follows the release of Hobson Adoye after satisfying bail conditions set out by the Dansoman Circuit Court after pleading not guilty to the charge of publication of false news. The court granted him bail in the sum of 20,000 cedis with two sureties, one of which is to be justified. According to Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere, government could have ignored him but have given credence to his claims.
I'm of the view that whoever advised the government, the national security, the police to go on that tangent is fired. Because now that he's been given bail, is yet to be given a date probably for the court session and that thing. So you are rather opening the Pandora box. But you could have ignored him. You could have ignored his ugly noises. So it can easily be explained away. That look, it is because of politics he is now with a new party or a new group that is the Afafanto. And that's the more reason why he's speaking like that. See, it kills the story one way or the other. But this time round, you are giving importance to that particular person and the things that he's been saying on air. Of course, because he came from your fold and he's warned you that come somewhere in November, if you people dare him, he's going to come out with a lot of things. And it's already stated that the likes of the deal to and co, he will see to it that they face justice one way or the other. So, you see, it's just like someone who is bitter with his political, with the mother party. And so, if you look at it from that perspective, you can easily explain away the kinds of things that he's saying on air. But to go to the extent of causing his arrest and then getting bail, I think that they've just shot themselves in the foot.
Again, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere added that the move to persecute Hobson Adoye could affect fortunes of the governing NPP come December 7.
Whatever happens, he is going to receive the corporate damage of the government in power. He is going to receive that. And so if things that are said are going to get Ghanaians angry and for them to vote against the NPP, he is going to bear the brunt of that. Not towards but not the president. Now, the mention of the president in the whole of this, I think that it could be treated as one of those things because what evidence is he going to have? But what is more dangerous to the fortunes of the MPP with respect to the 2024 elections and that of the pronouncement and utterances of, Mr. Hobson Adoye is the fact that when push comes to shove, he's going to mention other names that were part of the whole process and he's going to create a whole long process. And I don't see how they're even going to get to a closure to something of that sort. Someone who has been a member of national security, I think that they ought to.
Now to one of our headline stories. The Trainee Nurses Association has dismissed reports that government has settled 4 months out of the 23 months allowance owed them. This follows a promise by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to end the allowance drought. He announced that 177 million cedis will be released for onward payments to clear arrears owed the trainee nurses by Thursday, 16th May 2024. But a week after the announcement, the government has paid 3 months out of the 23 months owed them. President of the Trainee Nurses Association, Pascal Adumbisa, spoke to Star News.
Reached out to the Ministry of Health because looking at it as a second 7 badges that are being owed by the government. Out of these, only 2 badges were paid, and 3 months out of the minimum that we're supposed to pay. We acknowledge the payment, but I just called the ministry in quest of the rest of the badges that are supposed to be paid and even the outstanding arrears. That showed us that they are working tirelessly, and they are showing us within a week, next week, the disbursement will be made. So I think for now, we are saving a lot of the sessions as national executives regarding the payment of the allowance, because we are not going to relent over the fact that 3 months are being paid to our members, because looking at it, the arrears are so overdue. Over 30 months, others are having 27, others 15, and you pay them 3 months alone. It's not like we're not being appreciated, but comparing the number of months that are paid, even up to quarter of the amount that they're owing us.
Now, the wearing of uniforms among pre-tertiary school students in Ghana dates as far back as when formal education began in the country. However, there seems to be a growing trend of improper dressing springing up among many students in second cycle institutions right in the glare of the public, especially non-residents who commute to school daily. In the following report, Nurain Abbas delves into the rising issue of improper dressing among pre-tertiary school students in the capital, exploring its causes, consequences, and potential solutions.
Dressing well is a form of good manners. This popular quote by American fashion designer Tom Ford stresses why it is important for anyone to dress appropriately. For young people, especially students in second cycle institutions acquiring knowledge and moral values, the list when it comes to dressing is not complete without the following attributes: decent, modest, and more importantly, appropriate. Over the last few days, the news team has been monitoring some senior high school students to and from school following some observations we made in the weeks leading up to this report. Bushy hair, belts that were not only loose but half-worn, shirts hanging loosely rather than tucked in their corresponding shorts, socks and shoes of different colors and types defeating the uniformity which characterizes secondary education in Ghana were among the scenes our cameras captured. I sought answers from some parents who used to be in the shoes of these young ones.
I think the breakdown of the societal structure is contributing. The children themselves not being disciplined enough is contributing.
In our time, anybody can call you to order if you are not properly dressed. You know that adult can easily walk into your school.
So what message does improper dressing convey, especially for young people on their way to becoming adults? Sika Goka, an etiquette coach, explains.
If you were to see a student like that, particularly at the start of the day, you would normally look at them and assume that they're not maybe as serious as other students.
Are school authorities aware of this development? Father Stephen Osusechre, the headmaster of Opokowari School in the Eastern region.
It has come to my notice how some of our day students present our senior high school, the image of our senior high schools in town. If they tell you that we have closed and we're going home and that we can do whatever we want to do, and nobody on the street, no adults on the street is correcting them, then it tells you where society is going.
The question that lingers is, are the disciplinary standards in our pre-tertiary schools falling? Nurain Abbas, Star FM.
We will bring you the full reports in subsequent bulletins. And that's it for the Star Breakfast News with me, Evelyn, Araba, Aidoo. Next is the Morning Star with Francis Aban. Please stay.